This is Front Up on Geno TV, Channel 99. I'm Dan Drake, and our guest today is Rich Turer, the director. Is that your title, director?
It's Downtown Marketplace Coordinator.
Downtown Marketplace Coordinator for Actown.
Yes.
What is Actown?
Well, Actown really is a placeholder, a doing business as some people say. It's my position, frankly, has been funded by Remain Nantucket, with the intent for me to work through the community and make recommendations in June of 2013 about how possibly to better support downtown merchants, nonprofits, and the residents of Nantucket to enhance the vibrancy of the downtown area.
And how did you come to this position, briefly?
I don't know that I can do it so briefly. The real story is, my wife and I were actually heading to Nantucket. We became empty nesters. We were married here 26 years ago by Ted Anderson. Made a decision to come. And along the way, I had seen the posting from Remain Nantucket for this position, and the opportunity for me to spend more time on island versus off island trying to make a living was really enticing. So that began the conversation, and I've been blessed to be able to spend my time here since we moved here October 1st. Actown
is acting independently of Remain, is it not? You have your own steering committee, and
I do.
So at the end of the day, you report back to them, but in the meantime, you're not part of their organization. You're your own thing, right? Dan,
I think that's right. We so happen to have put up a quick little website, which is actown.com, where you would see our hours of operation and our steering committee members, and even have an opportunity to send in some commentary or questions along the way. But very specifically, it was designed to be a couple arms lengths away from what Remain does. I do not sit in their business planning meetings, but admittedly, the position's funded by them, and Rachel Hobart is one of our steering committee members, so I assume they communicate with regularity, but the plan really isn't to align with Remain from June forward. It's to look for a different way to organize and fund.
What does Downtown Marketplace Coordinator mean?
We're still working on that, as a matter of fact. It's taken 3 months of sitting in town meetings and meeting with many of the folks in the nonprofits, going to Whalers games, and speaking to my barber on island to get a sense of what might be needed, from residents and other people here. Ultimately, the steering committee, just last Thursday, developed a move forward working plan on what our priorities are. And I think most simply stated, if making downtown more accessible to more people more often.
Is this the document?
Well, yeah, that's our double secret probation document, but that is it, yes, it is. So I think that's the easiest way to state it, and then obviously underneath that, there's more work for us to be done.
Many towns across America have suffered a decline in their downtowns. Why is Nantucket different? Why might the solutions be different here than they are elsewhere?
Interesting. First of all, I do think Nantucket is unique, and we should be proud of Nantucket being unique. So what happens in other towns and cities and municipalities hopefully won't be our guiding light. I think the historic downtown district is the core of the island. I think it's a bigger part of the DNA of the community than it is for many others. And I think that the historic downtown area really is the point of differentiation for Nantucket, supporting an industry that's pretty important, which is tourism, and others. So I think it's critical that the community of Nantucket kind of beats that trend. And I think some of the more recent happenings in town meetings with Grand Union, CVS, kind of re-upping the conversation for Wilkes Square, which is one of many documents and studies and papers that had suggested that there is a way to, I'll say fix downtown in quotes. I think that's probably not the right word. I think the timing is right for the community to make sure that downtown services all of the different customers that it should, including the folks that live here 12 months of the year.
Is the fix a high season fix or is it a year-round fix? And how do you, obviously there has to be some kind of differentiation there. How do you do that?
Well, first of all, we have a path of another 5 months ahead of us, although the runway is already looking a little short. But I think there's opportunities in all seasons. I think the very natural place for people to go is let's make the shoulder seasons a little more vibrant, and can we do something in the winter where downtown could be more accessible or serve the community that lives here 12 months of the year? I think that's right, and I think we're certainly focusing on that. But I also remember coming here 20-something years ago and walking up and down the streets of Main Street, and more shops were open, even in early fall. Shops would stay open until 8 and 9 o'clock at night, and it wasn't just a place where you would go to a restaurant or a bar and then go back to your home or go back to your hotel. So I do, in fact, think that there's other opportunities to make even the summer season more accessible, but that goes well beyond events. That becomes an infrastructure conversation. It becomes a transportation conversation. All of those conversations are already happening with the town managers here. I think if the steering committee can contribute to the conversation and support some of the 10-plus year thinking on some of these issues, I think that would be a benefit to everybody.
Have you ever been to Bentonville, Arkansas? The home of Walmart?
I haven't been to Bentonville, but I've had peers that have been to Bentonville.
I will very briefly, because this is your interview, not mine, but I will very briefly tell you that Bentonville, the town square in Bentonville, is a beautiful town square, and if you stand in the middle of it and you look around and you say, hey, this is a pretty vibrant place. Well, it turns out that, in fact, there isn't much vibrancy there. There's a courthouse at one end. The lawyers' offices, the bail bond companies, and so forth are around the town square, not something that brings people in.
Right.
The only two things that are there are the Walmart Visitors Center, which is the original 5 and 10 of Sam Walton's, and a little restaurant. The rest of it is all offices, and they do a farmer's market in the summer and so forth. But it strikes me. I mean, of course, this is the center of the activity that has taken the vibrancy out of downtowns, and there's no retail activity. There's this one restaurant and then a visitor's center, which you can only go to so many times. So it's fascinating to me to sort of try to figure out how we as a town here can get some of these issues resolved and overcome what is I sense a natural resistance on the part of many year-rounders, particularly, to come downtown, except for some very, very specific things, such as the library, maybe the movie theater.
Yeah, certainly if it was easy, we probably wouldn't be sitting here talking about it, nor would there have been Urban Land Institute studies and Wilk Square recommendations, and a lot of this was also addressed in the last 10-year plan that was done for the town. The good news is there's been a lot of work talking about it. I think that's a great thing that everybody here on the island should be proud of, and maybe we should get online and dust off some of those documents and read them again, although a lot of them are 100-plus pages. I hear things from folks that live here all year, that have younger children, 9, 12, 13 years old, and they talk about what might attract them downtown. This notion that the island community during the off-season doesn't have a reason for being downtown. I think Halloween is probably a great example of where that's less than true, and spending time with my wife on Halloween and the community was really a fantastic moment of time for us. I think that the right product, the right price, the right entertainment is all important. So
you have 2 or 3 points that you are now sort of emphasizing in terms of or legs to the stool, maybe you'd describe, of the effort that you're going to make over the next few months. You want to tell us what those are?
Well, I think we've attempted to distill them down to 3 key priorities, but they're pretty big buckets. Admittedly, I think one that doesn't feel so hard, and I think is, as I've been speaking to more people in the community, is easier to embrace, is this notion of making downtown more accessible as it relates to product, price, and services, is what I like to say. Not accessible transportation, but we'll get to that too. I think the merchants in town have an opportunity to think about the way that they go to business. I think a great example was, although before my time, when the Brotherhood used to have $5 burgers, and I heard that people came from all over the island and would line up out the door. I know
or dollar wing night at the Atlantic Cafe.
Yeah, sure. Matter of fact, I kind of remember that, and I think you're starting to see some of the retailers doing more of that, but it need not be just the restaurants. I know there's a Mid-Island restaurant that does $5 burgers on Tuesdays, and I think if you go there, there's a line out the door, and people want to go for that. And the alternative would be to not be doing that and have 6 people sitting in the restaurant. I think retailers have the same opportunity to change their offerings and better service the community a little bit as you get past September and into October, November, December. And I don't think we need to have a solution for Wilkes Square, even for some of the merchants that are downtown, to, I'll say, behave a little bit differently. And you have some that really struggle to stay open and service this community, and good for them. They've been doing it for many years. I think there's probably more of those discussions that could be had. The other part, though, really is infrastructure. So been lots of conversations about what's good and bad about Wilkes Square. I think the committee, our steering committee, is a fan of the idea. Obviously, the specifics need to be fleshed out, and I'll speak for myself personally because I really read through that before I landed here in October. I think when you think about infrastructure, the ability for families to bring their children to an outdoor space that could extend all the richness of the island, from the Athenaeum to the Whalum Museum, from Mariah Mitchell, and take some of their great work outdoors and have book readings and puppeteers and small bands in an amphitheater-like environment. I think just using that as an example, not suggesting that's the right answer, but as I've been speaking to members of the community, those are the type of things where they would find a way to get downtown regardless of some of the infrastructure dilemmas, just as they do for Halloween and just as they do for the stroll. Now that being said, I think that parking and bus routes and Steamship Authority and High Line and how people get on and get off those boats, if there's ways to be thinking differently to reduce some of the car traffic during the peak seasons, I think that would be beneficial to the community. None of those are new ideas. There's been lots of studies about that. I think it's just an opportunity to move some of those to action. That would be great.
One point that has been made is that the Athenaeum Garden, and so for visitors and residents, there's no place that open space or anything of that sort that attracts them. Now, there's been an effort made, I guess, with some of the waterfront access at places like Great Harbor Yacht Club to remedy that, but it's not downtown.
That's fair. I mean, I think the land bank also has a couple of pocket parks downtown. It just depends on your definition of downtown. I mean, I think that's an example of if. Now, keep in mind, for Wilkes Square, there's 4 landowners there, and getting the right people in the room is going to be critical to move that forward. And I know everybody is working to start to make those conversations happen, and to have, in fact, the right people in the room. But that's where, when I had referenced, again, maybe it's a bad example, but I'll use it again, nonetheless, is an amphitheater-like space down at what is referred to Wilkes Square when you're thinking about what could happen there. I think that's the type of public space that could really be a benefit to the island. By the way, it's also a benefit to the tourists. They are an important part of the economy here. So there should be some consideration if we can get more people to come to the island and then find more reasons for being downtown for both visitors and for residents. I think that's a pretty worthy goal, and I think Nantucket can do it.
We're going to have to wrap this up, but let me ask you one last question.
You could, if you want to keep going, you can.
I don't think we. Okay, I think we're pretty well set, unless there's something else.
No, I
think that sorry, the last question I want to ask you is, if this is a 6-month or 8-month effort, what would you like your legacy to be in it? And if it's a effort that continues on, what would you like your legacy to be?
But that's a legacy question, Dan. I wasn't really expecting that. I'd love to participate in a way that matters, and my wife and I and our 2 Ridgebacks call downtown Nantucket home right now, and we'd love to be able to stay here and make a living here as we move forward.
Well, I was thinking more personally, but I was thinking of Actown.
No, I understand. I understand. So delivering another, there's been a lot of great studies and a lot of white papers, as people say. If only delivering a white paper and recommendation in June is my job and if that's my legacy, I would have failed. So the ability for me to make recommendations that the town embraces, and that's residents, that's town managers, that's selectmen, that's Chamber of Commerce, that's the folks that work so hard at visitors services. I think if we can develop a path that the community embraces and find a way to organize and such that we can really move so much of this to action, that would be a fantastic legacy. And I'd love to play a role in that here. That would be wonderful.